So welcome to this edition of the CGU Learning Center. Today we got a treat for you guys. We are talking with Kevin McCaffrey, who is a stand-up comedian and a writer. So Kevin, welcome. Thank you for doing this with us.
Sure, thanks for having me.
So how long have you been doing stand-up?
Been doing stand-up since the first open mic I did was was I think in June of '07. So I've been doing it. I would say for real, like in terms of consistently doing it all the time since probably like early 2008, I think. So, you know, going on 12 years. I mean, this year's been a bit of a pause, but yeah.
This year's been a bit of a pause for everybody.
Yeah. I'm very retired right now. So it's like, that's unexpected, but yeah, maybe an unretirement someday.
And you've also done TV. I mean, people may recognize you probably most from being on World's Dumbest, but you've also been on Letterman.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a couple of your stints on there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that was basically what brought me to New York in the first place, because I grew up in the Chicago area, then went to school in Indiana, and when I was in college, I basically started a late night talk show with some people there, and we did that, and that was like our whole lives in college, and then a few of us started getting in as interns at Letterman. So I interned there.
Well, my son Jeff is one of your summer interns. And
really?
Yes.
Jeff, come on out. Here he is right there. Jeff?
Please don't make me go. Don't make me go back. You don't know what it's like. I should have gone to college. I should have gone to college.
There, and then, I got to come back much later when I got booked as a stand-up, which was super nice. It's like that was a very aggressive like bucket list thing to do, and that's still obviously my favorite thing, because it was actually me doing stand-up. It was you really getting to do the show for 5 minutes, and but yes, I think when I'm out doing stand-up comedy clubs, nobody's really coming to see me because they saw me the time I was on Letterman, even if that is the thing I'm proudest of. It's usually because of various truTV shows or VH1 shows, and yeah, World's Dumbest is the most prominent of those.
Does anyone know why the dude is just hanging around bouncing his pecs? Who's enjoying that? You can just tell us a bear was there. We'll totally believe it.
Right. So what other TV shows have you done? Because I said, honestly, I'm familiar with those two, and I've seen some of your stand-up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. So there was a show called Greatest Ever on truTV, which is very, very World's Dumbest-esque. It's just different framing, but it was sitting in front of a green screen. And I guess if people haven't seen World's Dumbest stuff, it's still on. They haven't recorded a new episode since 2014, but they still rerun it all the time. And it's just one of those shows where they play internet clips, and then they have comedians, and then several D, sometimes C list celebrities also popping up to comment on it. So Greatest Ever is very much like that. And those shows really are like, it's the easiest job I've had, counting everything. Like easier than Little League umpiring, easier than everything. You just send you the videos, you write what you would say, you sit down and you just do it. VH1 had a show called I Love the 2000s. You know, VH1 has all those I love the insert year here. So I did the I Love the 2000s.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I did the I Love the 2000 series for that. There's a truTV show called Comedy Knockout, which is kind of like it was like 3 comedians, and it's sort of a roast competition show. So I did that for a little bit. Yeah, just a lot of truTV things, some VH1 things. Yeah.
So say what you will about truTV, they've given you a fairly steady paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you don't get residuals for the stuff. So they hit you the one time when you do it. But yeah, truTV has been nice throughout the years for sure. That was, I mean, the World's Dumbest one was definitely the first TV thing that I got once I started stand-up. Because that show started, at first it was literally just celebrities you'd kind of forgotten about. That was like everybody on the show talking. So they had, it's Danny Bonaducci, Tanya Harding, Frank Stallone. It was just like these kinds of people.
While the rest of our celebrity panel basks in their own memories of showbiz glory.
I could sing at 6 years old. I was perfect pitch.
Screech from Dustin Diamond from Saved by the Bell. And so
I heard he files a lawsuit against anybody who actually calls him Screech. I don't know if that's like true rumor or what.
I think he just doesn't like it because I saw someone else do it, another comedian on the way in, because you go in one by one to do to record, and he was coming out and another comedian was going in, and it was this guy named comedian named Artie, and Artie basically was like, "Hey, what's up, Screech? They told me not to call you that, but you're cool, right?" And Dustin was like, "Yeah, totally, that's fine." But to Dustin's credit, he did not mind in that moment being referred to that way. But that's how the show was. At first, it was just those kinds of like famous people, and then they wanted to sprinkle in. They were like, we should probably sprinkle in some people who are actively funny. So they added a couple comedians, and I was one of those. So that was like sort of the first time I was on TV consistently was that show.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So back up a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get started being a stand-up comedian?
So basically I went to college specifically for TV stuff, and I went to Ball State in Indiana, and that I went there entirely because of their TV program. And once I got there was a show that wasn't a comedy show. They had like one comedy segment, but they had a host. So I was like, all right, I'll take that one. And basically like auditioned for that, got the hosting job, and then took that show over. And a lot of my best friends still are people I met doing that show. I met my wife doing that show. She's a comedy writer as well. And so we all did that, and we just wanted to do that for a living. So, I mean, I was hosting shows, like hosting this late night talk show in college every week for 4 years. But I guess not technically stand up, but it was performing, you know?
Yeah.
And then I got the writer's internship at Letterman for my last college credit. And shortly after that, just basically started going to open mics in New York to get started. And open mics in New York are basically like, you know, it was a thing where I'm sure a lot of people do this, where you build it up in your head. You think like, oh, the best people are here. They're not at the open mics. You know, like the best, like I thought everyone was going to be really bringing it. And then you go to an open mic and you realize that, you know, a quarter of the people are legitimately crazy and are just there because this is a place that will let them go indoors. And then there's like another quarter of people that just don't make sense. Then most people aren't funny to start with. So if you can just string a sentence together, you're immediately like top 10%. And then, you know, if you're funny at all, you're really elite on the open mic scene. So it's like, and it's a nice thing that like looking back on it to like the early open mic days, almost everyone at those open mics, which would be like, you know, they'd be all times of the day. You'd pay $5. You'd go into this bar at 4 p.m. You'd hang around for 2 hours and do 5 minutes. Almost everyone who was good back then still does it professionally. Like it's been to some degree, it seems like a meritocracy up to a point, you know? So that's a nice thing.
Cool. So how hard is it to like break into stand-up comedy?
It depends on like how broken in we're talking, right? Like you can just do it. Like when I'm out doing shows and saying like bye and thanks for coming at the door at the end of the show and talking to people who come, a relatively frequent topic that'll come up is someone being like, oh, you know, I've always wanted to try stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And my advice is typically like, well, you just can. If you want to, you can just go to an open mic and, you know, you just find out whatever the nearest like city or town of some size is, probably has some sort of open mic that you can find. Just ask around, you know, you can find it online usually now, and you can just go and do 5 minutes. And you should, if you think you might want to do it, you should definitely do it once. But then also part of my advice is, if you don't feel like you have to keep doing it, don't. Like, do it once, and then if you feel like, oh yeah, I got to keep going, then okay. But I wouldn't recommend it really. You know, like there's a lot of other more linear ways to make a living, because you can't. While I say that a lot of the people who were the best starting out have gone on to some level of success, I think when I was a kid, I thought anybody who I saw on TV was just like rich, you know? Like if I saw someone on TV,
right,
they're made. Not as someone who's on TV relatively frequently, I can tell you that is not the case. And and like I've been very lucky. So the thing is, you sort of break in a professional way. You just have to do it all the time for free and work very hard on it, because you don't get paid for a while. And then it's just like, to some degree, it's like everything else, where it's helpful if you're just nice to people, and because you're going to get the opportunities you get to like audition for shows and find out about like showcases and agents and managers and all that stuff. Like everything is a recommendation, you know. It's like, in that way, it's sort of disappointingly not artsy, you know. It's like you think it's like, you know, it's Mrs. Maisel. I don't know if you've seen that show at all, but like Mrs. Maisel's like funny once, and every manager's like, you're gonna be the next thing. And it's like, that's not how anything works. It's really pretty much like you have to be recommended to a club by someone who will vouch for you. And the only way you get someone to vouch for you is by performing all the time, every time you can, trying to do well, working hard. I mean, there's some pretty standard elements to, you know, to giving yourself the best shot.
Right. Well, no, that's good to know, because like you said, people watch, you know, like Bert Kreischer and
Bert's
the comedians on TV, and it's like, oh, all I gotta do is do clubs for a little bit, and then I get discovered, and then suddenly I'm making the big bucks. But
right.
It's definitely a much longer road than that. That's that little dose is actually really good to hear. You know, it's not as easy as some people might think it is.
Yeah, and Bert's great, and Bert's a very nice guy, and he's been super successful. But like, even it took him like a while. Like, it took him a long time, and then he just did. You know, he really blew up off of his story. Like, he has a story called The Machine that like went super viral, that I think he told on Joe Rogan originally. But yeah, it's like, and that's a case where it's just like, he didn't know that was going to blow up like that, but he's a very nice guy, and he's funny, and he just works all the time. And then you still got to get lucky, you know.
Right. So, and correct me if I've got this wrong. So basically, to be a, you know, at least getting a paycheck stand-up comedian, it's put yourself out there to do it to begin with.
Yeah, that's a prerequisite, 100%. Right. Yes.
Got to put yourself out there. It's a lot of networking. And then it's,
unfortunately, yeah.
Then it's recommendation, and then more or less dumb luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I mean, and in that way, and I should also say that, and this is a thing that I've said, like, when I've gone back to my college and like talked to classes and stuff, is like, when you're doing this kind of work, like, this is not something I knew, but when you're doing stand-up, or when you're doing on-air TV stuff or TV writing, like, when the jobs are there, they pay well. Like, once you get them, like, the jobs pay very nice. Like, the thing is, you can go long times in between without having them, even if you're continually getting better. You know, many other jobs will leave you with less gaps in income and resume and stuff. So yeah, you do have to be, you know, you have to get lucky to just have the opportunities around, you know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you also write. What are some of the things that you've written or that you do write?
Well, I wrote monologue jokes for David Letterman, monologue jokes in top tens. So I did that, and then that was like technically the first thing that I wrote was that. When I was an intern, I ended up getting a couple top tens, got a couple top tens on in a weird circumstance, and then they had me keep submitting, and then I got to write for the monologue after that, freelance. And so that I've written for a bunch of TV shows that are not network sitcoms or anything, but like a lot of, I wrote for Cash Cab.
But only one of them pays you. Climb into the cash cab and I'll quiz you all the way to your destination.
You know, I've written for a lot of trivia things, Cash Cab, like HQ Trivia, that app. Like, I've had several trivia writing jobs.
So are you good at trivia because of that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. It's weird. The Cash Cab, you know, like, people love it. It's great. It's a fun show, but it's not like inherently comedic. Ben Bailey, the host, is a funny guy. He is a comedian, but like the writing staff when I was there, it was like 6 people who are all comedy people. It's just like one of those jobs that exists that you can do, and if you have a certain kind of knowledge and writing ability, I guess, can work out. So yeah, it's like, that's something, trivia writing has been something I've done as sort of a day job. And then there's been other shows on like There was a show called Binge Thinking on MTV that I was the head writer for a while. That was basically like a comedy game show played on the street with drunks. You know, like basically between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning is when we would shoot. So that, and you know, like various prank shows, and it can be kind of hard to remember everything. But a lot of those kinds of jobs are like 2 months and it's gone. You know, like
right.
The vast majority of things that have ever existed on TV are not Letterman. You know, they're not things that exist for 35 years. They're things that are here for a season or two and they're done.
Right. That's interesting.
Little one-off specials that like I wrote for a network called Fuse. I've written like end of year MTV countdown specials, things like that. You know, it's and a lot of that stuff. It's not all straight comedy jobs in those cases. Those are just, you know, like putting together a script and producing things on your own. And again, that's the thing that just that came across to me based on people who knew me from the TV world, and most people knew me in most people who I met, I guess, knew me in the on-air way first, but knew I could also write. And yeah, so you just end up getting weird little things like that.
So it's out of what you've done, what's the thing you've enjoyed the most? Is it writing, the stand-up, or like some of the TV work, or anything else that I might have missed?
I mean, stand-up's the main thing for me, which, you know, which is a bummer because it doesn't exist right now. But stand-up's the thing that sort of is always there no matter what. You know, that's something that I can just be doing on my own. And it's something where I get to own the thing totally, you know, where it's like I get to be talking about what I want to be talking about. I'm not really reporting to anyone, you know, besides the audience. So in that way, and it's me playing myself. Like me, when I'm doing stand-up, it's not a terribly different version of a person than I am now, you know? It's like me being me. It's saying things I actually believe, talking about things that actually happen. So yeah, for me, that's the main thing. And then like lately, I host a weekly show on Sirius XM, channel 99 on Wednesdays. With another very funny comedian named Sean Donnelly. So I do a decent amount of hosting when it comes to radio hosting and then podcast stuff. I do a podcast called Sex and the Cityots with my friend John Daly, who's a very funny TV writer. We had never seen Sex and the City, so we started watching it last year, and we just wrapped it. So and I love that, you know. And I think anything that's like hosting or performing as myself is you know, is what I prefer to do.
Cool. So where do you get most of your inspiration from for your stand-up sets?
Stand-up wise, I tend to be a true storyteller for the most part. It's a lot of stuff that actually happened to me and talking about my real feelings, my, you know, just my mindset on things that have happened to me for the most part.
And now we're in Queens County, which is like the most diverse county in the country. And I feel like I'm still too impressed when I hear people speak in another language. Like, I was leaving my apartment, there's a baby in a stroller speaking Spanish. And I'm so dumb, my first thought wasn't, oh, this baby's probably being raised in a Spanish-speaking household. My first thought was, oh my God, that baby's a genius.
The album I have out is called Nice and Drunk because those are two things that I am. And that is, and you know, it's basically, it's stories, it's things about me. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm not someone like Jerry Seinfeld is, I think would be the epitome of the person who literally like, he just does stand up like it's a day job, you know, where he sits down with a pad at 9 a.m. and he just writes until 5 and then, you know, that's it. And that's not really how I work. It's things go in more fits and starts for me, where, you know, I'll have a very productive month and then you'll have a month where it feels like nothing's ever going to happen again, you know, and this has been a lot of that. But yeah, I think for the most part, my material is just things that have actually happened to me.
No, that makes sense. And a lot of comedians do that. And I think just about all comedians would describe themselves as storytellers. You know, it's like, this is what happened in my weird life, or choosing to share it with all of you people.
Mm-hmm.
Your humor seems to be a little bit more towards the dry humor. And I mean that it's subtle. Like, we listen to you tell a story and all of a sudden there's a joke and it takes a second to quickly, oh, wait.
Oh yeah, I'm not like even like socially, I'm not an always on person. There's very there's comedians who are turned up to 11 all the time, and that's very much not me. No, I talk. I think I talk like a person for the most part, and yeah, and that is a thing where like occasionally in a town, if I'm in like an Uber or a cab or something. Even then, if they ask what I do for a living and I say comedian, like I think people tend to be more surprised, like with me than they are with many other people. I don't know if I just don't look like what they anticipate a comedian to look like, or I'm just not like being wacky all the time. But yeah, I think there's certainly elements of my performance that is more subtle and word-based, I guess.
I mean, it's definitely not a bad thing. Me, myself, apparently I either gravitate towards kind of the animated storytellers, again, like Bert or Craig Ferguson, or it's the dry humor ones that just kind of slide the joke in there. And it's like, did you catch that?
Sure, yeah. Everyone you're naming, I enjoy. Those are all good people.
Oh, yeah. So who were some of your inspirations to get you into stand-up? I mean, who are some of the comedians you look up to?
Not as a stand-up, but Letterman was the number one guy for me growing up. Like that was Letterman and Conan were what I did every night as a kid. Like I would watch one to the next. So Letterman and Conan were probably the top two. As far as stand-ups go, like for me, I don't know that anyone, if I had to just be in a club and watch one stand-up for 15 minutes in a real club, Dave Attell for me is the best club comic that's ever been. He's filthy but so smart and surprising, and it's not like how he performs is not necessarily like me, but I think that's also a lot of my favorite people are not people who perform like me, like because it's sort of a thing where if it's like you, it's easier to understand and it's more difficult to be surprised and delighted by something that you can kind of do, So I tend, in terms of who I just like Dave Attell is incredible. Like I said, the best club comic I think ever. As far as like an hour special, something that's like a guy who can just be brilliant and poignant about things that seem like they would be hack. Like the ideas are so good and simple but so funny. Like Chris Rock, if I had to watch an hour by anybody, Chris Rock to me is like as good a special comedian as there ever has been. Zach Galifianakis is incredible. Like his stand-up destroys me. And then like there's someone like Maria Bamford who is so funny in ways that like don't even, like when she performs, I feel like I'll be like, oh, I didn't even know we could do that. Like like she's someone who's so off the board of what's expected that I find that very inspiring too.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some of her sets too. The way she switches from like that cute little girl voice to like the sultrous voice, it kind of throws you off because she does it so seamlessly.
Yeah, she is brilliant. Yeah, she's so good.
And I've heard other comedians kind of say this in their sets. Do you ever have anyone who, when they find out you're a comedian, just like put you on the spot, like, all right, tell me a joke, make me laugh?
Yes.
You do? How often does that happen? I mean,
I'd say relatively frequently. You'll get the tell me a joke thing and I don't. It's like I don't, it's not an on-demand thing. But yeah, there will be some people, it's rarely, I think the people who react like that immediately either like kind of don't understand what stand-up is, or it's almost like from dudes, I think it tends to be more of like a challenge thing. Like insecure dudes be like, oh, you're funny, do it. And it's like, you plumb me if you're a plumber or whatever, no one does their job on demand in that way, and including stand-up. So, yeah, but so if you find out someone's a stand-up, like I would recommend not saying, hey, be funny. You could be like, where can I find some of your stuff? Or when are you performing? Those are better questions, I would say.
Tell them a joke.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there is I love good jokes. The kind of joke you tend to get thrown at you by people after shows, it really, there's a limited number of categories that they come in. Like I was in Wisconsin, not the most recent time, but a while ago. And after show, a guy like sort of quietly came up to me and he was like, "Can I tell you a joke?" And I just asked him, "Is it racist?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "I've heard it," like, because it like I feel like there's a lot of that kind of joke said to the comedian afterwards, where in my case, I'm always like, "Did you listen to anything I said? What if me up here made you think I would be a receptive audience for this?" But yeah, so you can tell the comedian a joke if it's good and not racist, I would say.
Right. That just baffles me, because like you said, you don't go up to any other profession. You find it's like, "Oh, you're a mechanic. Well, my car's got a flat. Fix it," or something like that. And it seems like comedians, and I'm probably going to say anybody in the medical field probably gets that. It's like, "Oh, you're an EMT or a doctor. Can you look at this? It kind of looks infected,"
Yes, right. I'm sure that happens a lot. Yeah.
It is just, it's really bizarre. So do you have any current projects you want to brag to us about or share with us?
I mean, the podcast Sex and the City, is the main one, I would say. As far as what's out there that people can just go check out, at Sex and the City, it's on Instagram. It's a free podcast. Like I said, it's with a guy named John Daly, who is one of the funniest people who exists, and we've been friends for 20 years. So it's a fun hang. And then if people want to check my stand-up, my album Nice and Drunk is you can find it wherever. It's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on all the places. So yeah, they can check out any of that.
Awesome. And I do know, because again, I'm a fan, it's how I initially became acquainted with you. I know World's Dumbest is on, you can buy episodes and seasons on Amazon Prime, and there are a bunch of free episodes kicking around on YouTube. Okay, I
didn't even know the Prime thing. That's cool.
Yeah, I discovered it one night. It's like, oh, I can buy seasons, so.
Nice.
And I tell you, it's however you feel about that show, I got to tell you, two positive things that I personally have gotten out of it is, one, if I'm just having a day where I literally don't want to devote even a single brain cell to anything, let's put on World's Dumbest.
Sure. I mean, that was good for me even doing it, And
the other is, it's, no matter how bad of a day I'm having, I can watch it and go, well, at least I'm not those people.
Yes. It's very, and I say this about the show I was on in a non-derogatory way. It's like excellent laundry folding television. It's like, it's good laundry folding TV. It's good hangover TV. It's just like easy to have on. It's chilled out. You see the clips, you get a couple jokes. Yeah, it was very nice. And I say it was the easiest job I ever had, and it was, but I sincerely enjoyed doing it, because whatever is happening around it, like, the things I was saying still got to be whatever I wanted, So it was a very nice experience.
But anyway, so we're going to post links as to where you can find Kevin and his work. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this and letting people know what it's like to be a stand-up comedian and what it takes to break into the biz, so to speak.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, and hope to catch you somewhere around Portland once things get better. It's good.
So thanks for joining us on this episode of the CGU Learning Center. We'll catch you next week. See you later.